hers, and hers alone. I'm curious, where in the world are you joining us from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed for all the latest updates. Some families mourn the dead, others hunt the living. Rain slid in sheets across the funeral home windows, blurring the world into gray. Evelyn sat in the front pew, spine straight, hands clasped tightly around a folded handkerchief that had belonged to her husband, Robert. It was pressed to her lips, not because she was crying, but because she wouldn't cry here, not where everyone could see. 42 years married, a quiet man, a good one. He'd died in his sleep, just as he'd always said he hoped to. No fuss, Evie, just a slip into the dark. But the darkness he left behind felt anything but quiet. She felt the stairs before she turned her head. Cousins whispered behind gloved hands. Neighbors leaned in too close to one another, faces pitying, expressions unreadable. She caught her name once. Evelyn, house must be worth. She tuned them out. Melissa arrived late, of course. Eyeliner dry, lips glossed, black dress tighter than necessary. She didn't sit beside Evelyn. She sat beside David, one row back, close enough to be seen, far enough to avoid responsibility. Evelyn felt the shift when Melissa's hand slid over David's knee. An intimate gesture, not of comfort, but possession. After the service, people filed past the casket offering condolences. Evelyn smiled and nodded. She couldn't remember what anyone said, only that Melissa leaned in, lips grazing Evelyn's cheek like a vulture's wing. "We'll help you through this," she murmured. "I know you can't stay there alone, not for long." Evelyn stiffened. She hadn't mentioned the house. Melissa pulled back with a soft, fake smile. "I'll call you soon, okay?" David didn't speak, just gave his mother a single pat on the shoulder, like a nurse might give a stranger in a hospital hallway. After the reception, Evelyn returned home alone. The front door creaked the same way it always had. The smell of cedar and lemon cleaner greeted her like old friends. She kicked off her shoes and stood in the center of the living room, listening to the silence Robert had left behind. She ran her hand along the armrest of his recliner, his favorite blanket still folded neatly beside it. She picked it up, held it to her chest, and finally, quietly, cried. It wasn't loud, it wasn't long, but it was hers. By evening, the house felt heavy. Evelyn made herself tea, but couldn't drink it. She sat at the kitchen table with her hands wrapped around the warm mug and stared out at the garden they'd built together. The ivy, the bird bath, the stones he'd laid one by one after his knee surgery, "For you to walk on barefoot," he'd said. The doorbell rang. She opened it to Melissa. No casserole, no flowers, just a purse slung over her shoulder and impatience in her eyes. "I forgot to ask," she said sweetly. "Do you have the spare house keys? You know, in case anything comes up." Evelyn blinked. Why would anything come up? Melissa shrugged like it was obvious. "You're alone now. Accidents happen. It's just smart." Evelyn didn't answer, just smiled politely and said, "Now's not a good time." Melissa's smile slipped for a fraction of a second, then returned, even tighter. "Okay, we'll talk later." She turned on her heel and left, heels clicking down the porch steps like punctuation. That night, Evelyn lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan. Her phone buzzed, a message from Melissa. "We need to talk about the house." Evelyn stared at the screen, then at the keys on her nightstand. Grief hadn't cooled before greed knocked. It was just past 10 a.m. when Evelyn heard the knock. Too firm, too his hoodie, staring at the sidewalk like it had answers. "Morning," Melissa said, breezing past Evelyn without waiting for an invitation. Evelyn turned, stunned. "Melissa, what are you doing here?" Melissa dropped her purse on the entryway table and pulled off her sunglasses. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "We need to go ahead and start the moving process." Evelyn blinked. "I'm not going anywhere." David stepped inside quietly. "Mom, don't make this harder than it has to be." She looked at him, her son, the boy who used to fall asleep against her chest after nightmares. Now he couldn't even meet her eyes. "I've lived here for 40 years, she said. "Your father and I built this home." Melissa walked into the living room like she was already redecorating it in her mind. "Exactly," she said, "which is why it's too much for you now. It's time to let it go." Evelyn's hands curled into fists at her sides. "Let me be clear. This house is mine. Robert left it to me." Melissa's head snapped around. "Actually," she said, voice like ice under glass, "that's what we came to clarify. David remembers differently. He said your husband wanted the house to go to him." David didn't object. He just stood there, lips pressed tight. Evelyn's heart pounded. "I have the will," she said, suddenly unsure. "Somewhere safe." Melissa's smile twisted. "Well, until you find it, it's your word against ours. And frankly, Evelyn," she stepped closer now, "you're not really in the best mental state." The words dropped like rocks into a pond. Evelyn took a shaky breath. "Please leave." Melissa didn't move. Instead, she reached into her purse, pulled out a set of empty keychains, and held them out. "Give me the house keys, right now." Evelyn froze. David shifted behind her. Melissa's voice rose, sharp enough to cut through walls. "I said give me the damn keys." When Evelyn didn't move, Melissa's hand flew. The slap cracked across her face, sudden, hot, humiliating. Evelyn stumbled back a step, hand flying to her cheek. Her skin burned, but the pain ran deeper than nerves. It was betrayal made physical. "I am not asking again," Melissa screamed. "Give me the keys." The hallway windows rattled. From across the street, a curtain twitched. Mrs. Green's house. A shadow moved. Evelyn's vision blurred with tears. Not from pain, but from rage. She looked at David. "You let her hit me." He didn't speak, didn't blink, just looked at his shoes. Melissa extended her hand again, but Evelyn didn't move. Instead, she turned slowly, walked down the hall, and shut her bedroom door behind her, locked it. The sound of the bolt sliding into place echoed like thunder. She stood there, back against the wood, keys clutched in her fist so tightly they dug into her palm. From the other side of the door, Melissa shouted. David muttered. Then the front door slammed. Silence returned, brittle, broken. Evelyn slid to the floor and wept, but she never loosened her grip on the keys. Not all inheritances are obvious. Some are weapons. Evelyn's cheeks still stung the next morning, but the ache that throbbed beneath her skin ran far deeper. She hadn't left her bedroom since slamming the door shut on Melissa and David. Not for meals, not for calls. She sat upright in bed most of the night, fully dressed.